The drug so powerful it will empty the money from your pockets, make you sell the watch off your wrist, the clothes off your back.
Or kill your mother. Yep, that's what we're seeing.
On the streets of New York, it's called crack, and the deals go down quickly. You've just witnessed a buy. This form of cocaine comes concentrated. It is smoked rather than sniffed. It produces an intense high within 5 to 10 seconds that lasts only 5 to 10 minutes and leaves the user craving for more.
And this is the most addicting thing that probably ever existed in the world, you know? It will make you a slave.
Leroy Johnson has been addicted to crack for more than a year. He says he works these streets at night, sometimes selling marijuana to finance his crack habit. In the beginning, it seems cheap, about 2 or 3 rocks for $10 or $20. But addiction costs dearly. Leroy has spent more than $40,000 on crack.
I believe in God. I have goals. I want to be successful. But this is a problem, you know. This is a very addicting thing.
People will violate every principle, every value, everything they hold dear to them when they get hooked on this.
It happened to 16-year-old Amy Payne. She turned against her mother and father after being addicted to crack for just a few months.
We didn't even know what crack was.
And drugs became more important to her than anything else, including family.
But today, after 6 months of treatment, Amy is recovering and looking at herself in a new light and a new dress for the prom. Thousands of others, though, still need help.
Are you using crack?
The National Cocaine Hotline is burning up with calls from people hooked on crack, about 600 per day.
This is not one socioeconomic group using this drug. This isn't rich folks or poor folks. It's rich folks and poor folks. And it's blacks, whites, Hispanics. It's across the board.
Crack is such a menace in New York, the city has declared war on it. So far, hundreds of people have been arrested. But finding crack is still easy. It took federal drug enforcement agents no more than 10 minutes in broad daylight.
How many do you want? And I can tell you how much.
All right, 10 hits.
You want 10?
I have never in my 21 years seen a situation like this where a drug has mushroomed so quickly and gotten such a grip on large segments of the population.
A grip that major cities like New York have tried with little success to break. And authorities say if smaller cities don't have a crack crisis now, they will soon. Harold Dow, CBS News, New York.
Causing a problem. Treatment centers for crack addicts are getting crowded, and in some cases, there is a wait just to get in. CNN's Al Sunshine has a report.
These youngsters are the lucky ones. Their parents are paying the Harborview Hospital in Miami as much as $15,000 a month for therapy, counseling, and a drug-free environment.
I was into freebase really heavy. I was smoking countless rocks every day.
On the street, they call it rock, a more concentrated, highly addictive form of cocaine, more commonly known as crack. Because it's cheaper to buy, it has become so plentiful, police can hardly cope. And at some drug treatment centers, abusers find waiting lists as long as 90 days.
Talking to treatment professionals across the country, they're all in pretty much the same boat. The interesting thing is that it used to be that you'd have to go to the major cities to find cocaine. With the introduction of crack, even the tiniest cities are seeing crack addicts.
Young addicts say their craving for crack consumed them. This young man had to steal as much as $600 a day to feed his habit. While waiting to get into a drug program, he continued his career as a home burglar to finance his habit.
It took at least 2 weeks because I went back out and did more. I knew that I needed help, but I didn't know who to go to. You know, I told my parents that I was on drugs and that I was stealing from them and robbing houses and stuff like that.
The crack epidemic is spreading faster than campaigns to hold it in check. Drug abuse experts say there are not nearly enough drug treatment centers nationwide to meet the demand. Al Sunshine, CNN, Miami.
Yes. I made more than $100,000 a year, sometimes close to $200,000.
But he snorted the money away and almost died.
I lost weight. I became suicidal.
How many times do you think someone has to use it to be hooked?
It can be their first time, second time, With me, it was my second time.
Michael worked on this street at a house protected from the police by 12-year-old lookouts. He described a cocktail lounge atmosphere where crack was served instead of alcohol. $10 for a hit that produces a 10-minute high in just 10 seconds. The house extends credit, but a person better not be late with his payments.
He can expect to be beaten up or to have his legs broken.
Crack is in 25 states coast to coast and in every major city. The initial low cost has opened the cocaine market up to the poor and hooked them on a drug more expensive and devastating than heroin.
The drug epidemic is as dangerous, if not even more so, than any of the terrorists that this nation faced, the Gaddafis and the Khomeinis.
Cocaine deaths are up 17% despite the current $1.4 billion war on drugs. Experts say the answer might not be more money, but more education.
Look how far this country's moved on seatbelts. Look how far it's moved on smoking. Look how far it's moved on all sorts of things where we've educated. And yet in the last 4 years, we have cut our drug education program.
Even Michael says education is the key to overcoming the seductive nature of this drug. George Strait, ABC News, Washington.
In just one night, Linda Frederick reports.
Can I get two, man? Just $2, man.
Police took over a known crack house in East Fort Worth and kept conducting business.
Oh, my God! Oh! Right there. No, please.
Bring 'em on here.
Please, no!
Before they closed up shop, undercover narcotics officers had sold dozens of bags of crack. The demand was so great that business had to be suspended for a while so police could package and mark some more. All of this crack came from the police department's own property room.
We're selling it, we're going to have to return it just as we got it.
But it was hard to keep track of at first. Police planned to arrest the suspects as they left the crack house, but that gave the buyer too much time to ditch the evidence.
We were having trouble containing the integrity of the evidence itself.
So the game plan changed, and all suspects were taken into custody right there at the house. Even then, investigators often had to search for the crack that was dropped the instant that officers moved in. This is a new approach to the job of fighting drugs, and police expect some criticism. But they also expect their methods to send a clear message.
The police are out, they're enforcing it. They're not just getting the big people anymore, they're getting anybody that uses it.
Linda Frederick for NBC News.
And while the president and Democrats were feuding over money and approach, the drug war did continue in the streets, and Americans on the front lines had their own battle-hardened reaction to the new strategy. NBC's George Lewis.
Barely 15 minutes after the president's speech, this was the scene less than a mile from the Oval Office. Two innocent people gunned down in an apparently random shooting in a neighborhood ravaged by drugs.
The mothers were sitting there talking, and next thing you know, out of the dark, gunshots just started going off.
Among the wounded, a 6-year-old girl. In another Washington neighborhood called Fairlawn, people listened to the president on the radio.
And our message to the drug cartels is this.
And talked to the police on their two-way radios, a neighborhood watch group, ordinary citizens, tired of drug dealers, who decided to do something.
My 20 is right over your shoulder.
Last night, there were no drug-related incidents in Fairlawn. Millions of people watched the president's speech on television, including 150 former drug users and pushers at a rehabilitation center in Fort Worth, Texas. Counselor Miles Bosaw doesn't think tougher penalties and more prisons are necessarily the answer.
A lot of times people get involved dealing drugs to support their own habit. It's almost like a disease, and they get involved in this disease and they need treatment for it.
In Boston, a tougher reaction from this man on the street.
About time somebody did something. Yeah, about time he put his foot down.
And in the slums of Harlem, this reaction from a drug dealer who contends the president's program won't put him out of business.
With some of his word was, kind of hard and strong. But remember, I'm still an old man. I'm trying to find enough money to build me a home.
In Miami today, U.S. Customs agents were looking for drugs in a shipment of asphalt from Venezuela. And a customs official was talking about the need to keep bureaucratic infighting out of the war on drugs.
And I'd like to see the sense of urgency that not only do the resources come, but then the ability to cut through the bureaucracy, make the bureaucracy work for you, work for us, so we can get the resources on board, out on the street, and out, where they're needed.
Among the editorial reaction, this from the Tribune in Oakland, California, a city whose drug problems have drawn nationwide attention.
More people from Oakland will end up in jail. More people will end up despairing, but I don't think the root causes will really be addressed by this program.
Almost everyone agrees that drugs are a major problem. While the president talks about getting tough on pushers and users, there is widespread disagreement about whether his approach will make much of a difference. George Lewis, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Last night on this program, we reported on a volunteer group in Kansas City called Black Men Together that's fighting drugs in its own way.
Better run, go push, you better run. You better run, go push, you better run.
Members of that group harass drug dealers. They direct community pressure against them. Today, that group and its work were praised by federal drug czar William Bennett. He said the impact they have had on their community is greater than any federal or state program could have had. However, at the same time, Bennett also said he is concerned that if the group gets any federal money, its members might just turn into bureaucrats. The U.S. Senate today discussed cocaine, that's 2.2 pounds, but, they say, the price of crack cocaine on the street has not yet gone up. On tonight's Drug Watch, our series of special reports this week, Breaking the Habit, the scientific search for something to help addicts break free of their need for cocaine. NBC Science correspondent Robert Bazell has more.
In Detroit, Susan Barbier was sentenced to life imprisonment last week for setting up her 13-year-old daughter to be raped by this man. Miss Barbier said she did it to get money to pay for crack cocaine. On the streets of New York City, dealers openly sell crack to customers who wait in line. Such scenes clearly show that law enforcement and treatment are doing little to slow the crack epidemic. Officials increasingly are hoping that medical research will offer some help.
If we can develop a pharmacologic approach to help us in our treatment efforts, it probably is the most important thing at this point that we could do.
So far, the search for a drug that would dampen an addict's craving is going slowly. At the National Institute on Drug Abuse in Baltimore, scientists are studying cocaine's effects on the brain using addicts hooked up to a multi-million-dollar machine called a PET scan. The researchers have found that cocaine affects the outer cortex of the brain. Here, the red areas show normal brain activity. When a person is taking cocaine, there is less red, less activity in the cortex. The scientists are looking for the specific parts of the brain called receptors where the cocaine goes.
The possibility, and again, it's just a possibility, of developing a blocker for cocaine could be realized by somehow designing a drug that would prevent cocaine from binding to its receptor site.
These rats are pressing a bar to obtain cocaine, and they will continue taking cocaine, ignoring food until they die of starvation. Studies have found a drug that can stop this behavior in animals, but no one knows whether it will work in people. The scientists hope that eventually they will find a drug for cocaine that is similar to methadone, which cuts down the craving for heroin. But methadone has been no panacea. Many addicts use cocaine while they are on methadone, and most return to heroin use. Also, many people who treat cocaine addicts in group sessions such as this one doubt there will be a methadone-type substitute for cocaine, because they say the craving for cocaine is mostly psychological.
It really reeks of ridiculousness to imagine that you can find something physical to solve a psychological problem. That's not even possible.
One approach that is showing some promise is to relieve the depression that cocaine users often feel when they stop taking the drug. Tests have shown that an antidepressant called dazipamine can be useful.
In the one study that's finished, dazipamine produced initial abstinence, started to get people off of cocaine at the rate of 60%.
But initial abstinence, getting people to stop using the drug for a few days, is not a cure for addiction. Most researchers believe there will be no medical cure for cocaine addiction for a long time. Robert Bazell, NBC News, New York.
Oakland police launched a new attack today in the war on drugs. As we told you yesterday, the city is now confiscating the cars of drug buyers. And today, officials began posting signs to let those buyers know what they're up against. The mayor was on hand, and he got an earful from an angry man who said the signs were a waste of money.
We go to the next block. That ain't stopping nothing. You know that ain't, you're educated, you know that ain't stopping nothing.
But police disagree.
If people are driving down the street and they've forgotten our message because they didn't see it on TV or they didn't read it in the paper, we want them to see this sign. And remember, this is not the place to come and buy drugs.
Over the weekend, police confiscated 43 cars owned by alleged drug buyers.
Crack versus powdered cocaine, which carries a harsher sentence. A federal judge in San Francisco has upheld a law which is 100 times tougher on crack dealers than on those who sell powder cocaine. The judge ruled against a LA man's claim the federal law was biased against minorities. In Southern California, drug agents have busted a $1 billion coke ring. The haul includes more than 6 tons of cocaine and 1 ton of marijuana. The street value is $1.7 billion. The drug smuggling ring operated in California and Oklahoma.
The attorney for a man charged with kidnapping and raping a 6-year-old East Bay girl.
All of them repeat offenders. But Ben Williams found an experimental new program teaching them how to stay straight and hopefully out of jail.
Are you at that point yet, that step 1 point, where you recognize that you don't have control over your drug?
It's called Project Deuce, street talk for second offenders. But many of the men in this program have as many as 8 or 9 offenses, some with nearly that many jail terms behind them, all due to the use of drugs or alcohol.
I spent $50 in a bag. I smoked the whole thing. It went $50 one day. You know, and that's just on weed, you know. Who knows, that night, maybe $300-400 that night on coke.
The project borrows techniques from Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, and other well-known programs and puts it all together in a package aimed at helping the addict offender kick his habit while he is dry and in jail for something he did while he was high.
I learned things that I didn't know about myself and about other people, you know, and about drugs, you know. And then, you know, you can catch AIDS from dirty needles. You know, I didn't even know that.
The program is run by Mike Rogers and Barbara Major.
Is he going to build and move toward recovery? Or is he going to continue on a downward spiral? I think that's the most important issue.
Project Deuce is the only program of its kind in a California jail. There are 40 inmates enrolled, and they work all day, 5 days a week on their problem. Many of the inmates say it's the first time they've been forced to admit to themselves that they had a serious drug or alcohol problem.
Really, I came into the program to be educated.
Officials say the program to fight drug and alcohol abuse is important here in jail because drugs and alcohol are the reason many men go to jail over and over again. Spokesmen say they are already encouraged enough to hope the program becomes a model for the rest of the state. From Contra Costa County, I'm Ben Williams, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
The program also has night sessions. That lets counselors work with the inmate's family so that they can help the inmate when he's on the outside.
Cocaine concentrate. CBS News reporter Victoria Carderi has the latest dramatic evidence tonight that crack use is spreading wider, far from the cities and closer to the children.
Police rounded up more than 100 alleged crack dealers early this morning in 3 New Jersey towns. Authorities say those arrested are typical street pushers, the kind who are now selling crack in the suburbs and in small towns across the country.
These drug dealers that we dealt with today will be replaced on the streets with new individuals in a matter of hours, days, or weeks.
Police made most of the arrests in Passaic, New Jersey. They say this was the base of operation, the local elementary school playground.
During the summer, police videotaped numerous drug transactions and made undercover buys on the playground. They say much of it took place in broad daylight in front of young children.
Yeah, Passaic used to be a lovely town. I used to like it a lot.
I think the neighborhood is getting worse. I think it's hard on the parents to have to send their kids to this school.
We're struggling for an answer. We want to be rid of this.
And so does law enforcement, which is tracking the near uncontrollable spread of crack from the cities to outlying areas, like this tiny South Georgia town. Police here recently arrested 19 people and confiscated $25,000 worth of crack.
We have seen drugs start before and spread across the country. Nothing with the speed that we have seen with crack.
Police say today's investigation was designed to find out how much and how fast crack is infiltrating the state. For people in this neighborhood, the answer is too fast. They fear the dealers will be back in the schoolyard before class is out tomorrow. Victoria Corderi, CBS News, Passaic, New Jersey.
The man who prosecutors say supplied cocaine that killed basketball star Len Bias is in jail tonight. Brian Tribble surrendered to police today in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Tribble was indicted Friday on charges of distributing and possessing cocaine. He has been identified as the man who placed a 911 emergency call after Bias collapsed. Tribble was put in jail today when he couldn't post a $250,000 bond. He's expected to ask for a lower bail at a bond hearing tomorrow.
Police raided a cocaine processing laboratory in southwest Michigan today. They confiscated about 200 pounds of cocaine worth an estimated $50 million. Police say it may be the biggest drug bust ever in the Midwest. CNN's Robert Vito has the story in Paw Paw, Michigan.
Federal narcotics agents call it the biggest cocaine laboratory bust in U.S. history. Authorities discovered 220 pounds of cocaine with an estimated street value of $30 million. Arrested without incident during an early morning raid on a 5-acre farm were 8 men who posed as migrant workers, 2 Colombian nationals, 2 Costa Ricans, 1 Puerto Rican, and 2 locals. Officials say the 8 worked out of this barn, processing the cocaine into crack and freebase, 2 deadly, highly addictive forms of the drug. Though officials would not reveal how, the lab was discovered in a remote area of southwestern Michigan, halfway between Chicago and Detroit, the likely destinations of the drug.
I feel this type of operation, this type of seizure will cause a considerable lull in the traffic.
Once, cocaine labs such as this one were found almost exclusively in the Caribbean. But since the beginning of 1985, federal, state, and local authorities have busted 46 of them nationally.
There's a tremendous amount of enforcement pressure throughout the Caribbean, and this is a result of it. They're going around those blockades, and they're setting up business elsewhere. This is a good example of how far they'll travel from the Caribbean basin.
Agents say drug kingpins are feeling the squeeze and are moving their operations to remote sections of the U.S., hoping to escape detection. Fortunately, federal narcotics agents say it is a plan that, for now at least, doesn't seem to be working. Robert Vito, CNN, near Paw Paw, Michigan.
This car belongs to an operating room nurse. This one to a disabled New Jersey police officer. But this weekend, federal and local police seized these vehicles and others after their occupants allegedly purchased cocaine and other drugs. The war against drugs, especially the crack form of cocaine, is heating up.
Not only is there a possibility that they will be arrested and prosecuted, there is also a very serious possibility that they will lose their vehicles.
The message that I want to leave today is if you come to New York to buy crack, bring car fare and be prepared to take the bus back.
In New York, the drug problem is epidemic. City officials say cocaine arrests are up 60% over last year. Watching a buy is easy.
You just had another sale right there.
There are so many people awaiting trial and so many who have been convicted on drug charges that New York's mayor has proposed building 2 so-called prison camps. Camps that could house up to 10,000 people. New York's drug clinics are overflowing. Just 3 months ago, treatment centers reported that they were filled and struggling to avoid turning people away. Today, crack addicts have to deal with a 6-month waiting list.
It's the first time in our existence for 20 years that we have a waiting list, and where we had to say, sorry, our beds are filled at this point.
That leaves 3 options for crack addicts.
They're gonna wind up either in jail, they're gonna wind up on the street, or they're gonna wind up dead.
Victims in a war that will claim many more victims, drug experts say, before the government's new crusade launched today really gets off the ground. Harold Dow, CBS News, New York.
In Miami, bricks and mortar are the newest weapons in the war on drugs. The city is sealing off old buildings, said to be used by dealers to sell dope. CNN's Al Sunshine reports from Miami.
By a circuit court order, this old apartment building was declared a public menace and ordered sealed shut. Police say it had been taken over by drug dealers. Owner Anthony Iannelli was told he'd be in contempt of court if he didn't block out all the doors and windows of his old building to keep out the pushers. Iannelli says he lost control of his apartment house after being threatened by drug dealers at gunpoint.
That's my office. You can see the bullet holes in there. I mean, how much can I do? I'm over there on the ground with a shotgun and 2 people in there, and there's a man died right over here, shot in the neck.
County officials say by sealing up the building, it will drive the dealers out of the neighborhood.
It will make a difference. This is a war, and we are all involved in it.
But residents here say all the concrete and bricks still won't stop the neighborhood dealers from plying their deadly trade.
All they're gonna do is open up another one. Because them bricks can be knocked down, you know?
City officials say sealing up this old apartment house marks the beginning of a major push to close down many of the derelict buildings used by drug dealers. It may still be a while, however, before anybody knows for sure if this program is going to make a difference to cut the street-level use of drugs in this city. Al Sunshine, CNN, Miami.
The newest and one of the deadliest drugs sweeping the country today is crack, a potent, inexpensive, highly addictive form of cocaine. Much of the nation's crack problem is concentrated in New York. Local officials call it an epidemic. Richard Valeriani has more.
Of impounding the cars of crack buyers. It began over the weekend and 30 cars were seized, 27 of them from out of state.
The message that I want to leave today is if you come to New York to buy crack, bring car fare and be prepared to take the bus back.
In northern Manhattan, crack-related killings are blamed for a 63% rise in the murder rate this year. Washington Heights is one of the area's and the nation's busiest crack neighborhoods. Pam North is a block association leader there.
People are armed, people are dangerous, and people are acting irrationally, and that's something that you always have to be aware of 24 hours a day.
Police here are bracing for more crack-related violence as some users start to mix it with the hallucinogenic PCP, or angel dust, making a so-called dusty roller. A former user tells of committing a holdup under the influence of a dusty roller.
But if he moves, you kill him. That's what mainly was going through all of our mind.
You get crazy because it's all speeding. You're speeding like 100 miles an hour. You're going so fast, and that's how your mind starts working. And when the mind is going that fast, it's just normally for it to become violent.
The dusty ruler will follow the same route around this country that crack has already done, with one change. It's potentially more dangerous.
The first use of dusty roller is also being reported in Philadelphia, Detroit, Washington, D.C., Houston, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, where it's also known as whack or space blasting.
Police in Southern California are looking for a man tonight who left nearly $2 million in cash at the Los Angeles International Airport. They say the man checked 3 suitcases filled with money at the Pan Am counter after switching his ticket to Switzerland. A suspicious clerk x-rayed the bags thinking they might contain a bomb. The locks were blown off, and inside police found the cash, which they believe is drug-related. Federal agents at the Miami airport made an even bigger haul. They discovered more than $44 million worth of cocaine. It was aboard an Avianca jetliner from Bogota, Colombia. Agents found the drug when a probe stuck into 4 flower boxes came out white, indicating the cocaine. The airline has been fined more than $4.5 million by the federal government. Avianca Airlines is facing a $5 million fine tonight. That's because customs agents in Miami found 294 pounds of cocaine on a flight from Bogota, Colombia today. The agents routinely stick a probe into containers like these flower boxes, and this time they hit white powder. The cocaine in these packages is valued at $44 million. Avianca is the national airline of Colombia. It was fined as part of the United States' new Get Tough policy to stop drug smuggling. $2 million in cash was abandoned today at Los Angeles International Airport. Tonight, federal agents want to talk with a man who ran off into the crowds when a suspicious ticket agent wanted to x-ray his luggage. After agents blew open the locks on that luggage, they found piles of cash, almost $2 million in all. The man was trying to fly to Switzerland. He is described as nervous with a Turkish accent. Agents think the cash was linked somehow to a drug deal.
Good evening, everybody. Dave and Wendy are on special assignment. Kate Kelly and I are sitting in, and here's what's happening tonight. More than 7 tons of cocaine. That's conservative estimate on how much was smuggled into New York by a major drug smuggling ring. We're talking about more than 200 pounds a month for 6 years. Now, federal drug agents say the ring has been smashed along with its Bay Area connection. Eyewitness News received a tip on this story last week, and we had a crew in New York today when the drug agents made dozens of arrests at Kennedy Airport. The suspects worked for several airlines, including Eastern and Delta, but primarily for Pan Am. Wendy Takuda has the full story from New York.
Federal drug agents moved into Kennedy International Airport today and arrested the airline employees on the job. About 3 dozen people in all.
Agents say it may be the highest level drug conspiracy ever involving airline personnel. They are calling it the Pan Am conspiracy because it involved mostly Pan Am employees. Most of the suspects are passenger service representatives, white-collar, management-level employees who were given a lot of discretionary power. The charge is conspiracy to import cocaine.
They didn't break the system, they were the system, and I think that's what's unique. They didn't have to overcome something because they were the something.
The Drug Enforcement Administration has spent a year tracing this inside job. They say in the last 6 years, these airline employees were part of a ring that smuggled in more than $1.5 billion worth of cocaine from Brazil.
Agents say from New York, the cocaine was flushed out across the country. San Francisco was one of the key cities being supplied. Large amounts, about 25 pounds a month, estimated at $2 million, were diverted to the Bay Area. Today, the man accused of receiving those drugs was arrested in Los Altos and arraigned in court in San Francisco. DEA agents say Richard Hopkins was a key player, a close contact to the ringleader. Agents say the employees of Pan Am developed a sophisticated operation to get the drugs into the country in suitcases and to get those suitcases past customs.
Airlines offer a quick way of getting in. So if somebody can corrupt a significant piece of the airline industry, then in fact they have a ready-made system.
The DEA says this operation is probably not an isolated case. Agents say they suspect similar scams are probably working inside other airlines as well. In New York, I'm Wendy Takuda, Channel 5 Eyewitness News, Nightcast.
Federal agents say they are continuing to hunt for suspects now in Brazil and in Europe. The people arrested so far face an average of 25 years in prison if they are convicted, plus fines of $250,000.
The Department of Justice says it's a record bust for the state, perhaps the nation. Los Angeles Bureau Chief Miranda Dunn reports on the bust that police say proves that an unbelievable amount of cocaine is still pouring into California.
It was inside this suburban house that Los Angeles police found almost 1 ton of cocaine. They say this represents the biggest haul of the drug ever in the state of California.
It exceeds by some 150 pounds the previous largest seizure in California, which was made by this department in April of last year.
Acting on a tip from federal agents, Los Angeles police started following Jorge Restrepo. Yesterday, they say they followed him as he left a hotel room he keeps near the Los Angeles International Airport. They say he then stopped at a department store to buy a suitcase and drove here to this house. They say he pulled his car inside the garage, shut the garage door, stayed in for a brief period of time, pulled out and drove away. They later arrested him and another man and confiscated the suitcase. According to police, it was now full of cocaine. They say they found the rest inside the house, bringing the total seized to more than 1,900 pounds, worth more than $300 million on the street.
This country is sick, and the material that we have here is a clear indication of that growing sickness.
Police say it could have been headed almost anywhere for distribution. That's the angle they're investigating now. In Los Angeles, I'm Miranda Dunn, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
A total of 3 men were arrested. 2 of them are Colombian nationals. The other is a Cuban national.
Ahead on Channel 7 News tonight, the biggest cocaine bust in California history.
And a man is arrested for allegedly burning human bodies in a pet crematorium.
Police have arrested a man calling it the largest single drug bust in California history. Police say an informant's tip led to the arrest of 1 Cuban and 2 Colombian nationals. The estimated street value of the cocaine, $325 million.
We've all heard the stories that Miami's become the drug capital of this country. This month alone, more than 5 tons of cocaine has been confiscated there, more than $70 million worth. But that kind of big money can lead to big problems, corruption problems, and the Miami Police Department has had more than its share of them. In Miami, here's ABC's Mark Potter.
In the last 2 years, more than 30 Miami police officers or former officers have been arrested. Investigators say it may be the worst police scandal in Florida history.
It is not a very easy task for a chief to stand before the entire community and say, we have corruption in our department.
Half the arrested officers are accused of taking part in a violent conspiracy to rob drug dealers and traffic in cocaine and marijuana while in uniform. Some are accused of stealing $2 million worth of cocaine from this crime scene they were supposed to be guarding. Others are charged with murdering smugglers or of planning to kill these federal witnesses who are testifying against the police. And there are the unsolved thefts of about 20 bales of marijuana from this police evidence locker and $150,000 from a vice squad safe.
And yeah, our credibility was hurt a lot, and we're trying to win it back.
Most Miami police officers are honest and hardworking. For them, the corruption scandal is a source of pain.
We feel betrayed. We feel I feel such an amount of anger that I just can't explain it to you.
Investigators agree the scandal began developing shortly after the 1980 Miami riot and the Mariel Cuban boat lift, which brought a crime wave to Miami. To handle these problems, the department, which was severely understaffed, was forced to hire more than 700 new officers, doubling the ranks in only 2 years.
The police department was ordered to hire all those recruits from within the 34 square mile city limits, and officials say there was a shortage of top quality applicants. There were also insufficient background checks, inadequate training, and an acute shortage of supervisors.
During this time that we're hiring so many, we had new officers in effect training even newer officers.
As a result, authorities say, many of the young officers became corrupt, especially when exposed to the easy money of the illegal drug trade.
A few people that we hired, they sort of got away from us.
Some were bad before they got here. Some turned bad after they arrived.
The department has now changed its hiring and training practices, but the scandal will continue. Several former officers, including this one-time Officer of the Month, have confessed to their crimes and are testifying against others. Investigators believe at least 30 corrupt officers are still in uniform, and more arrests are expected. Mark Potter, ABC News, Miami.
Drugs now appear to have penetrated every level of society, but some groups appear more vulnerable than others. Many drug experts say the epidemic of crack cocaine is hurting women far more than men. Mike O'Connor with that story.
The special problems of women on crack are appearing on the streets where crack is now said to rule. Experts say there are no known studies that prove what many now see as a clear trend, that women are becoming more quickly and more deeply addicted than men. Men, it is said, usually will not allow crack to control their lives totally. Most will keep some kind of a job, keep their lives organized at least a bit. But women are often said to give in completely. Women trying to get out of the crack world often compare their relationship to the drug with a love affair. Lisa says she gave up her husband and a career for drugs.
They were a sure thing. I could work it. I was a prostitute. That was a sure thing. I could be sure that I had my buddy, my drug, 24 hours, 7 days a week.
You exchanged lovers?
I did.
Bill Crawford has helped people recover from drug addiction for more than 20 years. He supervises a program to help men and women recover from crack. He says the addiction usually takes a firmer grasp on women.
They're out there doing it longer than the men. And the women don't run out of resources as fast. You know, they can go through their bank account, they can go through their property and everything. Then they turn to their body.
When they turn to their body, they trade in their pride too, giving them more reason to stay hidden away in the crack world. Lucy says it's hard to face now what she willingly did for the drug.
Which was having sex, in exchange for money or in exchange for drugs. And I would do this under influence, and it's like sometimes the changes that I allow myself to be taken through. It was real humiliating, but wanting the drug so much, I allow myself to go through this. I wake up and I have the same clothes on for a week or so and be dirty and, not a lady, really something filthy. And that kept me down a long time.
Addicts who are mothers often forget to care for their children. Often the county takes the children away. Rita.
I felt like I did a lot of neglect, so that's guilt. I lost my daughter in the process, that's guilt. And it's a lot of things that I might not never get okay with in my life.
Experts say every day there are more Bay Area women on crack. The success rate for programs like this is not encouraging, because the deeper the women become entangled in the crack web, the harder it is to find their way out. In Oakland, Mike O'Connor, News Center 4.
$1 billion a year to make sure those houses don't reopen. Tomas Herman has the details.
Crack cocaine users and dealers get into vacant buildings like this one and use them as crack houses. Police say these places are a blight and a danger to the community and have to go. James Stanley says the crack house on his corner made him angrier than a junkyard dog.
I paid a man to kneel it up myself. I did, out of my pocket, the back and the front.
Sergeant Robert Crawford formed the Beat Health Unit. He and a couple of officers have been closing these places down, but without funds. A neighbor complained about this place, and the Beat Health Unit stepped in.
I think it really helps the neighborhood because, I mean, nobody wants to be somebody shooting and going on around where you live at and not kill you or your kids or somebody around the place or around your house or something like that. So it's just a nice thing for it to be, somebody to do something about it.
This is what police say the crackdown is all about. This is an envelope used for crack cocaine, and here on the table, what you can see are matches, what's left of what looks like a crack party. Police say these matches are used to keep a crack base pipe going. We also found the top to a needle. Police say the needle was probably used here for heroin.
We've been successful in about 90 closures of properties that are crack cocaine related. This was a crack hotel behind me.
Crawford and his crew closed it down February 23rd. They may have to clear it out again. But tonight, Oakland City Manager Henry Gardner will present a proposal to the City Council to give Crawford the ammo to fight the crack houses. The plan is $1 million from redevelopment funds, money usually used to build.
We think with this kind of an approach, a unit dedicated solely to this issue, we will be able to keep enough heat on the drug dealers and drug users that we'll be able to keep these crack houses closed permanently.
In Oakland, Tomas Roman, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
And we close our program tonight with another story about drugs, the innocent victims. Len Bias was the All-America basketball player who died after a night of cocaine use. Edward Byrne was a New York City policeman shot to death as he guarded a witness in a drug case. And in their deaths, their parents became innocent victims. How did it change their lives? When they buried Ed Byrne, his father, a former policeman, touched the hearts of millions when he sounded a warning about the meaning of his son's death.
The drug peddlers are now telling us that they've declared war on society, and you and I are society.
When they buried Len Bias, his mother was comforted by Jesse Jackson as she left the funeral.
God is on our side.
Matthew Byrne and Lonis Bias, each in their own way a victim of the drug plague in this country. But these are not people who succumb to self-pity.
I know that I am on a mission from God to help rescue the youth and the families of this nation.
They decided to deal with their grief by fighting back, by sharing with others what they learned. Matthew Byrne has gone back to the streets of the neighborhood in which his son was murdered. Police reinforcements in the area have slowed the drug trade, but these remain mean streets. And Burns says drug dealers aren't the only villains.
You can't really discuss this in a vacuum. They talked on the supply side, but there would be no need for a supply side if there were no demand side. And the people that are using it, in my judgment, are just as bad as the people who sell it. Because if they weren't around, you wouldn't have a market for these narcotics.
When Byrne makes a rare public appearance, he has a powerful message.
I could see his blue eyes. Those words have been attributed to one of the persons who has been accused of Eddie's execution. I ask that you see his blue eyes, and as a consequence, walk away from those who would have you get hooked on drugs so that they can profit.
For her part, Mrs. Bias, a born-again Christian, concentrates on the role of the family. A high school in Greenville, South Carolina.
You must not allow yourself to be enslaved to the negative things that people will have you to do to hurt or harm yourself. When your so-called friends run out on you, who will be there, your mama or your daddy, to help you? It's nothing wrong with having friends, but don't turn your family off. Family is what it's all about, and your family will always be there for you, young people.
This has become Lonis Bias's life, spreading the gospel about the role of the family in the war on drugs. When she returns to her modest home in a Maryland suburb of Washington, she often retreats to a family room where her son's basketball trophies remain in place.
Is there ever a day that goes by that you don't think about the death of your son?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's what I say. I can remember him standing there in the door and how his massive body just filled the doorway. Len Bias was born to die the death that he did, to save so many other young people. One man's life to save millions.
Matthew Byrne has never met Lannis Bias, but when we went back to the neighborhood where his son was executed, he sounded the same warning.